Hello everyone, I'm Jess with the Lompoc Public Library, and this summer, reading colors your world. As part of our summer reading program, we are going to have a paint party. Yay! What you will need is a paintbrush, paints, and a piece of paper or piece of canvas. If you had picked up our craft kit at the beginning of summer, you'd have a piece of paper and a paint set with you. Though the paintbrush that comes with it might have gotten a little bent up after some of the other crafts that we have done. So if you have another paintbrush, definitely grab that and any other paints you might have. So I'm going to take our piece of paper, I'm going to go ahead and put it on my makeshift canvas here. All right. And we are going to get started. You can play mellow music or whatever inspires you to get into the mood. You can also collect all of the supplies and watch this video when you're ready, or just remain entertained as we attempt to make a unique masterpiece, or at least something that, we could put in our room or on our locker, or just take a picture of for our Instagrams. All right, the first step is I'm going to take a pencil. I'm going to draw a light outline of what it is I plan on making. That way it gives me an idea of what it is I'm going to go with. So I'm just going to very lightly paint a line. I think I might do a pastoral or an outdoor image, but we'll see what happens as we move along. I'm just going to make a nice little horizon line there. Then I'm going to get all my paints ready. Another tool that you might be able to use is a paint pen, which comes with a variety of colors and allows you to paint, but with a pen, like a watercolor brush pen. And they come in a variety of colors, and so that might be an option for you to begin. So I'm going to take one such pen. I'm just going to lightly make that line. That way it's a little bit more visible for you guys. What I did with my pencil. It doesn't have to be even. It's just a nice tool for you. That way you kind of get an idea of where your horizon line is, and it's not necessary. You can also use the paints themselves to help with creating those different lines and mixtures, and ideally this will get blended in with everything else. So I'm going to start with my paints. I have made this paint palette with the paint colors, most of them that were in this paint set. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix some colors together and see what I come up with. And it's just about the flow and your inspiration and what comes to mind. The strokes will kind of give it the tone or the attitude that you would like to see in it. There's a variety of different techniques that are out there that you could use, and amazing videos. And we'll put a link in the description to the official Bob Ross YouTube channel, which has amazing tutorials on how to make art. And I highly recommend going to those official sites or finding some fabulous artists that are out there right now on social media, on the YouTubes and TikToks and Instagrams and Pinterests of the world. There's some amazing artists doing work, and you should find out what they're doing. For now, I'm just making nice wavy lines, almost like waves in the ocean, but with this brown and green mixture that I'm making. Try to give an imbalance, a waviness, almost like they're hills. It's not straight ground. Some of it is barren and parched, some of it has grass in it, trying to give a flow of an outdoor meadow maybe that is out there. There are multiple techniques. You can pre-mix the colors and see how they end up on the palette, or you can put one color in at a time and then mix them on the palette so that those are two ways you can do it. I kind of like the randomness of mixing on my paint palette and then putting it on, because then it's like, ooh, there's a surprise. That's what came out. But if you want more intentionality, definitely put the colors on first and then mix them on the page or the canvas. I'm just gonna fill in a little on the edges there to go all the way out. I definitely suggest if you're painting, you notice I put this on another piece of wider paper. That way if I go off the page, it's just going to go on that piece of paper and not on my table or anything else. That kind of helps take care of the mess a bit. All right, so that's kind of a nice waviness. I'm going to add a little bit more of the greeniness towards the top, kind of give the idea that there's something greener just above the horizon. I have it hopefully mix in well with my sky. I think I'm gonna do a sky next. One great way to do a sky is to use whites and blues, grays. You can even put in some blacks in there. What I'm gonna do first though is rinse out my paintbrush in water. Forgot to mention, you might wanna get a cup and put in some water. That way you can rinse out the paintbrush. Or grab an entirely different paintbrush for the colors. All right, so now I'm just gonna put straight blue. There are lots of different shades of blue out there. I have no idea what shade this is, but if you happen to know, you can definitely come by the library and let us know. I'm just gonna call this blue. And if you ever go to a paint store or a craft shop, you'll find that there are a lot of different types of blues out there. I'm also doing not as deep a wave as I did with the ground, but I'm definitely not going to go in straight lines for this either, like I would here. This would be more straight. And if you notice, I'm just doing like an X motion or crisscross motion. You can also do straight just like this. And sometimes it's nice to have a distinct line going through. It could give a sense of maybe the motion of the air or the sky, especially if you're going to do clouds. Sometimes you might want to have that nice clear streakiness. You can also do a nice, deep, big dollop of paint and then spread it out if you have a wider paintbrush maybe, to give that sense of movement. Definitely like to have movement in the sky, not have it look static or just part of the background. Like the sense of that flow, that airflow, the sense of timing too, like you know what direction the sun is going, even if you don't have sun directly in it. At least that's my intention. I don't know if it's gonna come out that way, but we're gonna just play around with it some more. If you are doing a sky with me, you can also add sunlight, put a nice big dollop of paint, or if you're really talented, you can try to play with shading. What direction is the sunlight coming from? What is it gonna bounce off of? That kind of thing. So I'm gonna just put my sky in first, and then we can see about adding clouds or sun rays. I'm gonna bring my sky all the way down to where that green was, to give a sense that maybe the horizon's being illuminated by the sky. Maybe it isn't actually greener on the other side. as we play around. You might need a lot of paint. It's surprising how much paint it takes just to make the sky. I'm gonna patch in a few places here and there. Don't worry too much about it if you intend to cover the sky with other things. You can have little gaps here or there, but let's just put some more in places and see where we go from there. All right. I'm gonna rinse off my paintbrush. You always want to clean out the paintbrush in between colors. You don't necessarily want to accidentally mix colors if that's not your intention. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to select another watercolor paintbrush, if I can find the right color, because I do not have whites or blacks in my paints. I only had blue, green, red, and yellow. You can combine all of the colors together to make a nice black, but I find that if I don't have white paint, it's hard to get it coming back to a gray. So I'm going to actually use this one real quick to outline. I'm gonna let that dry a little before I use this. And then we're going to mix some paints together to make another shade. Maybe I'm gonna mix a brown and a red together and with a lot of yellow. Hopefully get a little bit more orange. That did not quite work out. Okay, let's check. It is still somewhat wet. So you can make a background first, completely fill in the background, and then as sections dry, that's when we can put on another layer of paint and really put in the details. I like to work with the backgrounds really nice before we paint right over it with our designs. Okay. I'm gonna dry off my paintbrush a little before I dip in with another color. I'm gonna take a little bit of red, put it over some of the colors here. Just add a little bit more dimension and streakiness, more depth. Play around as if I'm making shadows in the hills. There we go. Or just make it a little bit messier. Adding just a hint of color can sometimes add dimension, I think. Or it's just an illusion of mine. But either way, add a little bit more. There we go. All right. I'm just staring at it for inspiration. What comes out of it and what looks like it's going to make this a really fun painting. And now we are going to take black, and you can do it with marker, crayon, with paint. It doesn't really matter what type of black you're using, but to get black, you can even do like chalk. If you have black chalk, because we're gonna make a silhouette now with this, or whatever inspires you. I'm inspired by making a silhouette on this background, but you might decide that you're gonna do maybe a silhouette but with green or blue, or you will have something in the foreground. You can do buildings, trees, birds, however you're decorating your canvas or piece of paper. I do recommend though that if you're gonna put something on your canvas that's a different medium type, a different texture, that you let it dry completely before you get started. Versus if you're using the same paint or the same marker or the same crayon, you can just keep going. But I find, for me at least, it's a lot easier to make a silhouette when my background is dry. All right, so I'm gonna actually use a watercolor pen again because I did not want to spend all day mixing the black, because to mix black with paints when you don't have black can take quite a while. And so I'm just gonna draw my outline now. And I think I'm gonna draw some cactuses. Make it seem like it is a desert maybe. Do the nice outline. And then I am going to just color it in. Just go right over my sky with the black. For this one, if you're following along and making the same thing that I am, markers, crayons, those would be great to use with this. And again, it doesn't have to be black. There are, a nice red maybe, or a green crayon would do very well. I'm just going to use black though, because it makes a nice contrast and a nice silhouette for this video. We're just going to keep painting. If you can even see past my big glorious hair, which is a homage to Bob Ross, which you can definitely get the official link in our description. Highly recommend watching those videos. Okay, so now I have one cactus, and then you can make even like a little cactus, a little round one maybe, because they're not all that shape. So I'm gonna have a nice little rock maybe. It did come out more like a rock, didn't it? Let's do a nice bigger one with maybe a little fruit type of guy on, or flower on top. That way you can tell it's maybe not a rock. The thing that gets me every time I paint over something is there are certain areas where I'm like, oh, that would be so pretty. How can I possibly paint over that? Not in this painting, but in other ones. Maybe ones you're doing. And sometimes, that's part of the effect. It's definitely part of the layering for people to know, that this is a complete work, that, there's something behind the foreground image. And so when you paint over it, sometimes people can see that the strokes did go behind, that there was something there, and it helps with that layering effect. This one's gonna have two, because I don't really, it's just inspiration, so it doesn't have to fully do the whole, that's not what a cactus looks like. It's just getting the idea for this of a cactus and getting that nice black paint fully over the image. And then I'm going to actually try to make some that look like they're in the background. I'm going to make tinier ones. They look like they're really far out there. Because I'm terrible. There we go. They look like people. And then I'm going to make one that looks like an actual tree. Just to show some variety. Oh, okay. All right, so we have this black silhouette of a tree. I'm gonna fill in a little bit more on some of my cacti and maybe make this one a tree that are in the distance. This one a tree as well. All right. To give some depth and some variety. So there is my nature scene. I have the sky, I have the ground, I have the different cacti and trees, all done in silhouette. And hopefully you were able to paint something that looks amazing for you, maybe even something you'll hang up or post on your Instagrams. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this paint party and have a wonderful summer. And remember, reading colors your world. Bye.